Where is your solution? Because I don't see one.
At the moment, we are contravening international law.
The people who pretend to care about these people never seem to have a solution to the problem.
There's been a huge backlash over how he compared the government's rhetoric on migrants to the rhetoric in the 30s in Germany from Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. In his tweet, he suggested the Home Secretary's response to the small boats crisis used, quotes, language that is not dissimilar to that used by Germany in the 30s. Well, joining me now to discuss this, writer and commentator Larissa Kennedy and comedian Konstantin Kisin, who moved to the UK from Russia when he was 11. So let me start with you, Larissa, on this. When you read what Gary Lineker said, did you think that was a fair analogy to contrast this government with a regime that was building in the 30s in Germany, which was to go on to slaughter 12 million people?
To be absolutely clear, what Gary Lineker said is that, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the language used to justify what is happening here with this bill, with this proposal from the government, is akin to language that was used in the 1930s in Germany. So I think it's really difficult to begin then talking about policies and actions, because that is something entirely different. Because I think what Gary was trying to insinuate is that we need to be cautious of the slippery slope here, which is well documented, which is that language and the dehumanization that language can do is very, very powerful in leading down that slippery slope and wanting us to be cautious of the journey that we're on.
Right, but it is. But I would argue, I'll bring Konstantin in here. My issue with this is you talk about slippery slope. The moment you get into 1930s Germany, you evoke memory of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis and the Holocaust and 12 million people being, murdered, exterminated in concentration camps, 6 million Jews in concentration camps and so on. I just think that is a slippery slope. And the moment, to me, anyone invokes that in relation to a current government like this Conservative government, to me, you're losing the argument, because you're using an extremity of a debate which just bears no relation to reality.
Well, right, and I'm not particularly easily offended, so I'm not offended by his comments. But the problem we've got here is not so much that he said something silly or insensitive. For me, the problem is it's completely inaccurate. Tens of thousands of people were not trying to get into Germany on small boats. And that is, I'm afraid, the real problem with this whole argument is the people who want to demonize Britain as this racist hellhole can never seem to explain why tens of thousands of people like me want to come to this country and settle here. And some of them do so illegally, even by breaking the law and putting themselves in danger, which is something actually I think we should all be concerned about and should be seeking to end.
Yeah, I mean, my problem, Larissa, with this, Gary doesn't have a solution to one of the biggest problems with the small boats at the moment, which is that a third of the people coming in on these small boats are young, perfectly healthy, non-vulnerable Albanian men who are being recruited, they suspect, mainly for gangs already in the UK. They're being brought over by criminal gangs. They're spending thousands of pounds to do it, so they're not short of a few quid. But these aren't the most vulnerable, oppressed people from war-torn countries. They're coming from a perfectly safe country, and they're abusing our system. But I don't see anything in Gary's statement about that reality of the people coming over on these small boats in large numbers.
To be really clear, we are often talking about people being trafficked here. And in fact, by stripping people's rights, by stripping people of their rights...
Larissa, I've just told you they're not being trafficked.
So you're denying that there are people being trafficked to the UK?
Larissa,
so you're denying that there are being people being trafficked to the UK?
Hang on, look, let me repeat the question.
And so you know better than Genocide Watch, you know better than all
let me repeat my question.
Human rights organisations that have been documenting this.
Let me repeat my question. A third of the 45,000 or so people who came over last year to the UK on small boats were Albanian young men, perfectly healthy, not vulnerable, not oppressed people from war-torn countries. That's a fact, a statistical fact. And when I saw that, I found that alarming. That said to me the system was being gamed. Now, there are other people who are coming from war-torn countries. In fact, Britain has been leading the way in putting up people from Ukraine, from Afghanistan, and other genuine war-torn places. That is a different issue. But what would you do about all these young Albanian men coming in who are not from war-torn countries and just want to come in without doing it legally?
What would I do? Well, I don't think my first action would be to strip all 3/3 of those groups of their rights illegally by contravening international law. I don't know how the question is being reversed rather than the government's actions actually being interrogated, because at the moment we are contravening international law. In 1951, we signed up to the Convention on Refugees, saying that we would not, put extra pressure or, impose sanctions on those who came via illegal entry. We signed up to that as a country. So it's not for me to now sit here and debate whether or not that was the right thing to sign.
And this is the problem. Isn't this, Piers, is this not exactly the problem?
Let me ask Konstantin, because I mean, there certainly is going to be a massive legal row about this, but what is your response to that?
Well, this is exactly the problem, and this is nothing personal to Larissa, but the people who pretend to care about these people never seem to have a solution to the problem. And the reason is they haven't thought about the issue at all. Now, look at the point you made about people from Albania being smuggled. Let's say that they are being smuggled. Why are they being smuggled into this country? Because we allow them to be coming in here in these small boats, and we don't do anything to prevent it from happening, and we don't do anything to disincentivize these smuggling gangs from doing it, right? And all we have to do, by the way, is declare Albania a safe country so that no one who comes here from Albania illegally is entitled to asylum. It's not very difficult if you actually care about the issue. And my biggest concern as someone who, like you, is proud of Britain for helping people who are coming from genuine need, is that if we continue to make the British public feel like they're being taken for a ride, and of course they're right to feel that way when we spend £7 million a day accommodating these people, if we continue down that path, then eventually people are going to get fed up and say, we don't want anyone coming in, we don't care about the circumstances. And then the very people that these woke lovies like Gary Lineker pretend to care about are going to be the one that suffer in the end.
I mean, to be fair to Gary Lineker, everyone shouted at him, well, if you care so much, take one of them into your house. And he did. He took in a young boy refugee, and he did take care of him, and he's very proud of him. And so he did actually practice what he preached. Thank you both very much.
Good on him, but that's not the solution, Piers.
No, I totally agree. And I've in my Sun column tonight, I've said, where is the answer, Gary, and Sakir Starmer and others criticising the government? Where is your solution? Because I don't see one. And the problem with allowing so many obvious economic migrants to come in illegally is that you are then taking attention and money and resource away from the people who really need it. And that is what we should be focused on as a country. But Larissa, Konstantin, thank you both very much indeed. We're going to have a short break coming. We're going to bring in Isabel Oakeshott, familiar to this parish, I think, certainly to you, Richard. And we're going to pick up on that and also get some reaction to